Yes. Hi, guys. Yeah. Greetings once again. I believe we can get started. I can see people joining, so that's great. So, my name is Arvind Surdev. I'm here with Learnsignal, and today we'll be talking about how to pass your SBR exam. Now, this is a professional level exam, a strategic level exam, as they call it nowadays. Quite an important exam, as you guys know. It is one of the not a choice based exam. You have to write this. So, this is a compulsory exam for anybody who's looking to clear ACCA, right? So we'll talk a bit about the paper. We'll talk a bit about certain things that you may need to know before writing an exam. Yeah. So I'll try to help you guys out. Let's see. In the meanwhile, once again, please feel free to introduce yourself on chat and talk about what attempt this is or what you're facing as a problem in SBR. There will be a Q&A session at the end, so you can also ask your questions at that time. You can post your questions anytime for that matters. Yeah, I will get to them as soon as I can. Right. Now, on that note, let's get started. How to pass your exam, the SBR version. Yeah. So, first off, guys, the objectives of this particular webinar would be on figuring out what would be the key topics that you need to focus on. You hardly have 2 weeks. I don't think there are 2 weeks anymore. There is about a week and maybe a couple of days, right? So, key topics to focus on. What should you be doing? Then, approaching each exam requirement. See, most students kind of forget what, or not forget, they don't actually interpret the right question. Yeah. So they always think it's something else that's being asked, and the answer doesn't fit the question. So this is one thing that we will address. There would be a talk about a 2 week revision plan. Yeah. You don't have 2 weeks, so you may want to condense that. But yes, we will talk about a revision plan that would fit the amount of time that you guys have left. Now, time management and exam day techniques. Yes, of course. Time management is a big issue for a lot of students. So we'll talk about how to practice with time management in mind and what can you do on judgment day. So on the day of the exam, what are the things you should be doing? Yeah. Then the 80-20 principle for exam success. Finally, we'll have a Q&A session and then we'll be concluding this. Yeah. So I guess we can get started. I see more people online, right? So let's go. Now, high priority areas. Let's talk about what's most important in SBR. Now, SBR, guys, strategic business reporting. Yeah, it takes from FR. You guys may already know that financial reporting. The basic level paper or the knowledge level paper for this is FA, financial accounting. So, sure, it's your double entry system. It's all about a financial reporting framework. It's all about how to treat different transactions and different balances, and then ultimately summarize them in the form of financial statements. Yeah. Now, this is a big part of your ACCA learning, so there is no way around this paper. Let's talk about the most important areas. Ethics and professionalism, that would be the first topic of interest. Yeah. So, importance of ethical behavior, knowing your 5 fundamental principles. I hope you guys all know them, right? The most basic stuff, of course. The 5 fundamental principles, applying this, showing what is ethical behavior or why this is so important. Once again, agency theory comes to my mind. Yeah, this is something you guys may want to know if you don't already know what it is. Agency theory is the reason why we have financial reporting. Yeah. And we have auditing also because of agency theory or the agency problem. Corporate governance too. Now, financial reporting is, well, whatever we are doing is based on IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards. There are different standards used around the world. IFRS hopes to be an internationally used set of financial reporting standards. That's why the name. Now, ethics and professionalism, the importance of ethical behavior, including the implications of unethical behavior and application of ethical principles in reporting. In simple terms, guys, you'll be given scenarios where the directors may not be acting in the best interest of the stakeholders. Now, may not be just the shareholders, even though the shareholders are the most important stakeholders. Sure. You can also consider other stakeholders. You can consider the ethics in the actions of the directors. You may be asked to comment on a situation, evaluate a situation. So be ready for that. Yeah. Moving on from there, the financial reporting framework itself, the basis of everything that we do in SBR, the conceptual framework, and of course the IFRS standards based off the conceptual framework. So understanding the application, strength and weakness of the conceptual framework, very important. Also, yeah, knowing your IFRS standards, the numbers don't really matter, sure, but knowing what these standards are and knowing the treatment of different items or different transactions would be, well, of paramount importance. Yeah. So make sure you know that. Now, when I say conceptual framework, the main things to know, I hope you guys already know these things, right? The first one, yeah, it would be the two basic qualities of financial information. And what am I talking about? Faithful representation and relevance. You guys may have heard this. If you haven't, please look through the conceptual framework. Yeah. There are also enhancing characteristics. Yeah. Recommendatory characteristics, not the mandatory one. Recommendatory characteristics of financial information. There is comparability, understandability, verifiability, and timeliness. There are 4 more qualities like that. So please look into this. This is talked about under the conceptual framework, the qualities of financial information, and then it does talk about the objectives of reporting also. So certain things that do matter from the conceptual framework, especially when you're writing a well-rounded answer, you want that. Yeah. Now, moving on from there, group accounting. Yes, your 50 marker, the main question in the exam, would be based on consolidated financial statements. Yeah. Or simply speaking, consolidation. IFRS 3, IFRS 10, IAS 28. These are the standards that come to my mind. Of course, maybe a bit of IFRS 9, but other standards, yeah, triumph there. There is also consolidated cash flow statements this time, something that you don't see in FR. Yeah. So something that is new here in SBR. And particularly, you guys may want to look at transition accounting. By transition accounting, I'm talking about what happens when an associate, yeah, or when a company that you own 30% in becomes a subsidiary. That means you have or you achieve control in that company. Then how does the accounting change? Well, it changes from the equity method to the acquisition method. If these words seem strange to you, sit down and study. Yeah, a lot of things to learn. Right. But don't worry, it's not that hard. It's all actually quite logical. I would suggest going through IFRS 3, how to calculate goodwill. Yeah. And then, of course, being able to work out the net assets of a subsidiary, very important. Understanding the fair value adjustments, understanding things like intra-group trading. Yeah. Profit, provision for unrealized profit, what we call PURP. Yeah. Making sure you know these things because these are the most common adjustments that you will see with consolidated statements. There will be adjustments with regards to other standards also. For example, IAS 16, IAS 41. A fair value adjustment can come up based on any of those standards. So keep all of this in mind, but make sure you definitely look through group accounting because without group accounting, there is no SBR exam. Yeah. Now, joint arrangements, joint control. IAS 28 is the standard that looks into it. Please check that out. There is also foreign currency in consolidation this time. Yeah, foreign currency in subsidiaries. Not this time. It's been part of SBR for a while. So make sure you look into that. I believe the standard is IAS 21 or 29. Not very sure of the standard number, but one of these 21 or 29. Both the standards you guys have to learn. Both deal with foreign currency. So please check it out. Yeah. Now, moving on from there, the mammoth, financial instruments and non-current assets. Now, financial instruments is one topic that I think most students have trouble with. So my way of learning this, or what I did back in the days, right? That was a long time ago, though. I did my ACCA back in 2013, right? So at that time, what did I do? Well, I try to make out a table of what happens, right? How do you treat financial assets? How do you treat financial liabilities? So sort of like a comparison on paper so that I can see, okay, this is the difference here, this is the difference there. So I would suggest that you guys also make a mental map, of what you understand. Financial assets, how are they treated? How is the initial recognition? How is the subsequent recognition? Now, when I talk about initial and subsequent recognition, please keep this in mind, guys. Most standards that talk about how to deal with transactions all talk about initial recognition and subsequent measurement. So if you can crack these two things, half of your learning is done. Not bad. Yeah. Then, of course, derecognition is also important. When you don't have an asset, when you don't own an asset anymore, or the asset has expired. Similarly, with a liability, if you have paid off a liability, or if the liability is now expired, yeah, in such cases, you will have to derecognize these elements from your financial statements. So how do you derecognize them, particularly with respect to financial instruments? IFRS 9 is the main standard that talks about how to deal with them. Yeah. The initial recognition and the subsequent measurement and all of that. IAS 32 is presentation of financial instruments. IAS 7 is also there. IFRS 7. IFRS 7 would be disclosures of financial instruments. So watch out for all of these standards. Off the lot, IFRS 7 is just to read through. Yeah. But IFRS 9 takes time. So focus on that first, I would say. You can almost always expect a question from that area. Yeah. I mean, it would be as important as group accounting if group accounting was not the 50 marker. Yeah. So since group accounting is the 50 marker, I would say group accounting is a little more important, but most definitely do not go into the exam without knowing IFRS 9 or without being comfortable with IFRS 9. And now the second part of it, non-current assets. When we talk about non-current assets, IAS 16, most definitely property, plant and equipment. IAS 40, yeah, investment property, right? There is also IFRS 5, non-current assets held for sale, yeah, or discontinued operations. So make sure you understand these standards. These standards are actually quite simple. They're a carry forward from FA. You do learn these standards in different capacities in the earlier papers. Now, for the ones who got exemptions, you guys still don't have to worry about it. You got exemptions because you know how to do basic accounting and other things, right? So just build on that knowledge. It's not that hard to grasp, especially the non-current asset standards. I would say those are the easiest standards that you can learn. Yeah. So make sure you look into it. Financial instruments and non-current assets, detailed understanding of IFRS requirements for financial instruments and asset valuation. Now, when it comes to asset valuation, the standards I talked about, quite easy. Yeah. Whereas financial instruments may be a little hard. So allocate your time accordingly when you do study. Now, don't break your head over any topic. That would be gentle advice. Yeah. Moving on from there, what about the interpretation of financial and non-financial information? Yeah. Well, this is something that students tend to overlook. Yeah, it's mostly ratio analysis, yes, and it's also about commenting on those ratios. So you need to be more capable than just doing the ratios and just talking about how these ratios work. That's not going to cut it. Yeah. What you need to do is, of course, substantiate your observations or your conclusions with the help of the ratios. Yeah. So think of it on those lines, guys, right? Interpreting financial and non-financial information. When you have financial information, how would you interpret it? What would you see from it? Would you say that the company is doing well? If the company is doing well, what ratios, what ratios support that view? Yeah. Or if you feel that, okay, the company has some trouble here, what ratios would support that view? So think of it in that way. Interpretation is actually a very important topic. It's often overlooked, yeah, by both students and teachers, because compared to the other topics, it's actually quite easy. But watch out for it. And last time, I believe the last exam, September exam, they had sustainability standards which were questioned. Yeah. So IFRS S1 and S2, again, a set of standards that are often quite often ignored because nobody really asks any question. And it's kind of a drag, the standard itself. It just talks about, yeah, how to bring about sustainability, and not any, I mean, there aren't any calculations involved, and it's actually quite straightforward. So people tend to overlook it. Yeah. But don't. Last time there were questions from the sustainability standards. So make sure you know them, right? They are also very important. Other than that, yeah, I think all the basic standards you guys definitely have to know. So there are some simple standards that you can tick off: IAS 37, IAS 38, IAS 36, IAS 2 inventories, right? IAS 41 agriculture, yeah. IFRS 9, no, not IFRS 9. I think segment reporting, yeah, is another one. IAS 12 taxation is very important. I hope you guys know that. IFRS 16 and 15. 16 is leases, 15 is revenue. Make sure you know these basic standards. Now, guys, the reason I call them basic standards is because you would have seen these standards from earlier papers. For anybody who got exemptions, have a look through them, try a few questions, maybe try simpler versions of questions to just to get the understanding of how it works, and then try full size questions. Application in simpler questions would be in a way that you can easily understand what's happening. Application in bigger questions would be a little more complicated. That would be what you can call exam level. Yeah. Now, moving on from there, approaching each exam requirement. Yeah. So reading and planning, absolutely. Yes. See, when it comes to writing the exam, you got to remember it's 3 hours and 15 minutes of focused reading and planning out what you're going to do in the next 3 hours and 15 minutes or so. Yeah. So reading and planning, importance of identifying command words like evaluate, interpret, and discuss to align responses with question requirements. Now, this is what I was talking about at the beginning. Yeah. Most people tend to, well, write whatever answer that comes to their mind, which may or may not work. That's like playing Russian roulette. Yeah, may or may not. Right. That's gambling. I don't want to do that. So I don't want you guys to also do that. Basically, what you guys should be doing is figuring out what the question is. Yeah. Read carefully. When you are reading, focus and read it carefully. Understand what it is. Make a plan in your mind how you want to approach this answer. Yeah. Think of the examiner as somebody who doesn't know anything, right? Literally nothing. Yeah. So you have to point out certain things, or you'll have to show workings for certain things. Have this plan in your mind. And of course, relate this plan to what is actually being questioned. So if it says interpret, yeah, try to understand the situation. If it says evaluate, compare the situations. If it says discuss, maybe it's talking about certain things that may affect the situation. Yeah. So try to understand that. That will go a long way in crafting the best answer. And then the answer structure itself, what I was talking about, that mental plan about how you want to write your answer, put it into action. Yeah. So it should be clear. It should be structured formats, starting with definitions, most definitely. Remember what I told you? Examiner, assume the examiner knows nothing. Yeah. So then you're teaching the examiner, start with definitions, tell him or her, yes, how this is or what this is, and then, yeah, have the answer in a very clear and structured format. Also, yeah, be ready for analysis. Yes, the way you want to involve your analysis in your answers, application of different standards for sure in SBR, and how you conclude your answer. Most students also miss out on concluding answers. Guys, the smaller answers sure may not require such a big conclusion, yeah, but the bigger answers, especially your case studies or answers that involve you writing a report to the directors or to the stakeholders or to anybody for that matters. When you do write a report, naturally speaking, if you were writing a report in the corporate context or in your workplace context, you would have a small conclusion at the end. You would, kind of yeah, make it, what do you call it, a full circle read for anybody who's reading it. Same thing with your answer. So try to bring that into play. Yeah. Now, moving on from there. 2 week revision plan. What are you guys supposed to do in the next 2 weeks? Well, you don't have 2 weeks. I believe the exam is on the 3rd, if I'm not wrong. Wait, is it the middle exam? Yes, I think it is the middle exam, right? You guys can correct me on chat, of course. I believe it is on the 3rd of December. Yeah. Not very sure of the date. But yes, you have about, oh, that's too little. Yeah, you have about 8 days, about a week. So condense this plan. This is the 2 week revision plan. Hopefully, you guys have already done some parts of this. So align accordingly. In the first week, that is days 1 to 3, that was supposed to be last week, right? You should have reviewed core topics, particularly the conceptual framework, ethical standards, and IFRS standards on revenues, leases, and financial instruments. Now, for anybody who's starting today, this is where you want to start. But of course, you won't have 3 days to do this. Cut it short, make it a day and a half. You will have to put in a little effort. Yeah. Why? Because you're starting late if you're starting today. For anybody who's gone through all this, again, try to do the whole revision within the amount of time that is available. So condense it a bit, but the instructions remain the same. Yeah. Now, week 1, day 4 to 7, that is the second half of week 1. Practice scenario based questions in group accounting and consolidated financial statements. That way, you're making sure you have some exposure to the main part of the exam. 50 marker right there. You want to be good at that. Then, week 2, day 1 to 3, or the first half, yeah, of week 2. Here, review past examiner reports. We'll be talking about one in just a bit. So review the past examiner reports, any technical articles that you may find interesting. Yeah. Usually, if there is a topic that you don't completely understand, it is always recommended to look at a technical article regarding the same topic. And personally, it has helped me a lot back in the days. Yeah. And back in the days, there was always talk about how the technical articles also suggest what question is going to come up. Yeah. I'm not very sure if that holds true, right? But technical articles, going through them can be quite helpful. Explore the ACCA website, most definitely. Explore the Learnsignal website also. We have a lot of content on it. Yeah. Now, coming back here. So review past examiner reports to identify common pitfalls, focusing on difficult areas like financial instruments and fair value, IFRS 13. Another standard that is important, type 1, type 2, type 3 inputs. I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. Again, if you don't know, don't mean to scare you. You have a lot to learn. Yeah. Now, coming back here. So make sure you focus on past examiner reports, try out mock exam, maybe focus on difficult areas. The second half of week 2, that is towards the latter end of your practicing time, conduct mock exams, timed mock exams, guys, because at that point you need to make sure that it's not just about understanding or learning or being able to reproduce an answer, writing a great answer. It's also about working within the time restrictions. Yeah. So if your exam is within 3 hours or 3 hour 15 minutes, 3 hours is what, 180 minutes of writing time. 100 marks, that's about 1.8 mark each. Now, SBR will have professional marks also, so you can align accordingly. Yeah. But point is, for a 10-mark question, don't spend more than 18 minutes. Whatever you do, don't spend more than 18 minutes for a 10 marker. So for a 15 marker, half the time, sure. But again, don't spend more than that. Try to keep it within, that time, within that limit, right? So refining time management, enhancing structured response skills, also important. Yeah. So making sure that you are capable, or making sure that you have an idea. See, if you keep practicing now, you have great time to do that. Half an hour a day. Yeah. If you keep practicing questions, right? I'm not talking about studying time. I'm just talking about practicing to get the structure or the format right. Yeah. So if you just do that for the next, what is that, 5 days, you will have an idea of how to structure any answer. And that's what you need when you go into the exam. Yeah. You don't want to be thinking about how to structure my answer on the day of the exam. You should already know. It should come naturally to you. Yeah. Now, because those are the areas where students tend to waste time. So for anybody who feels that they don't get time, this is what you may want to look at. Now, time management and exam day techniques. So talking about time, let's go a little deeper into it. Time per mark strategy. Yeah, this is what I was mentioning earlier. 1.8 minutes is what you have per mark. That is 1 minute and 48 seconds. So think of it as a minute and a half. Yeah. So effectively, then you have, if you have a minute and a half, you have about 15 minutes to do a 10-mark question. Yeah. 15 to 18 minutes. Try to keep it in between that, right? Make sure you cover all questions. This is important because you never know where you're going to get your marks. Sometimes, yeah, the question that you thought was hard is probably the question that you're going to ace. So make sure, yeah, you try all questions. This allocation of 1.8 minutes per mark is also keeping in mind that you do go through all the questions. Then prioritizing questions is a key way to make sure that you're closer to that 50 mark pass rate, right? Starting with high mark questions or familiar topics to secure easy marks early. Yeah, this is what I would also do. This is what I would suggest anybody do, because if there are easy answers, if there are answers that you know very well out there, yeah, do them first. Secure those marks, secure who can be saved easily, or secure the marks that can be made easily, right? Then, yeah, go for the harder marks, right? So maintaining pace is also important. Skimming the paper to highlight key tasks, yeah, knowing what you need to do. Is it an analysis, is it an evaluation? Yeah, is there an application of some standard? Then sticking to the planned time allocation for each part would be very important. So maintaining pace, remember guys, an exam is almost like a race. Yeah, doesn't have a finish line per se. The finish line is, well, the end of the question paper when you're done writing all the questions. So try to reach the finish line. That's the whole point, right? Even if you do have to skip certain parts of answers that you're not sure of, yeah, no problems, right? Try to attempt all questions. And, well, let's hope that doesn't happen, but keep practicing, yeah, so that you won't run out of time in the exam. Yeah. Now, moving on from there. Yeah, sorry, guys. Moving on from there, we have the 80-20 principle for exam success. Now, you guys may have heard of this 80-20 rule before also. It's known as the Pareto law. It is applicable in a lot of situations. Yeah. So the point here is that 80% of the marks come from 20% of the topics. So high yield areas, that's what we can call them. Yeah. Areas from where you can get the most amount of marks. Those are the areas you should generally focus on. Now, of course, it's very important to have a general understanding of the subject before you just pick up an area and focus on it. So I would always tell you to, I would always suggest that you guys do an analysis of where you stand as far as knowledge goes. How well do you know the basics? Very important. Yeah. And then build on that. When you build on that, remember, build the high yield areas first. Get that knowledge first. Why? Because 80% of the marks are from 20% of those topics. Now, that's not a correct metric, but that's the law. You can also think of it the other way around. 20% of the marks are from 80% of the topics. So a lot of these topics that you learn will only get you 20 marks. So watch out for that. Focus on the high yield areas. Yeah. So essential topics like group accounting, ethics, and IFRS applications that frequently appear in exams, make sure you know them. Yeah. Now, quality over quantity is also important. Concise, well-organized answers that address the key requirements, yeah, than lengthy, unfocused responses. Now, you guys are writing a strategic level paper. Yeah, before this, you guys may have written a skill level paper or a knowledge level paper, right? Knowledge level means multiple choices. Yeah, doesn't matter. Skill level paper, yes, you would have had some written written responses. Yeah. So those written responses would have been, they wouldn't have been as complicated or as professional as required by a professional level exam. Yeah, the strategic level exam requires you to write in a certain tone. There is a diplomatic professional tone that you have to maintain, a certain style of language that you have to maintain in your answers. You may have seen model answers, you may have seen how they're written. Of course, those are model answers. I'm not asking you guys to reach that level. No, if you can, well and good. But make sure whatever you're trying to communicate, yeah, you communicate that in the most concise and clear manner. Yeah. It's not about rambling. Remember that it's not just about filling up the page or filling up the number of words. No, yeah, there are exams out there like that, but easy is not like that. You shouldn't be simply rambling, actually. But at the same time, it's not also about putting bullet points and just mentioning a couple of words or mentioning a half sentences that effectively constitute the answer. Sure, yeah, the examiner knows, but the examiner cannot give you marks for that. You need a well-rounded, yeah, complete answer. That's what we're looking for, right? So concise, well-organized answers. Again, don't write the conclusion first. Yeah, have a small introduction, maybe a definition of what is important in that question. Yeah. So trying to think about it this way, examiner doesn't know anything. So you're trying to help a stranger understand, yeah, what's going on here, right? So try to write in the most simplest language also. It's not about having a sophisticated command over the language or something like that. It's about being clear. It's about communicating right. Yeah. So keep that in mind, right? Concise, well organized answers. Yeah. And try to avoid lengthy, unfocused responses. Yeah, yeah, I've seen a lot of that. I think I also used to like answering like that. Yeah, talk about everything under the sun. Well, maybe not in the exam, right? So try to avoid that. Now, moving on from there, guys, analysis of the recent examiner's report. Now, what did we see in the recent examiner's report? If you guys haven't seen this, you can go on ACCA and check out the full document. Here are the general comments and key takeaways. So, a general performance overview, you could say. Yeah. First thing that the examiner noted, the main thing, was inadequate application of knowledge in practical scenarios. Yeah. So this is something expected because a lot of students go into these exams, yeah, with FR level of knowledge, they try to write the SBR exam. Now, sometimes you can wing it, but very low chances of that happening. Yeah. Because as you guys know, it is a serious exam. So inadequate application of knowledge in practical scenarios, well, you may have the knowledge. There are two scenarios that can come up, or two situations here. One is where you don't have the knowledge, then you were rigged to fail anyway. Yeah. The other is where you do have the knowledge, but you're not able to apply it to the scenario. Now, this could be because of, well, lack of question practice, lack of actually looking at similar situations before, yeah, or the exam being the first day where you actually see a scenario and you have to apply the standards that you know, but onto that scenario. Yeah. So inadequate application, watch out for that. Then, for the people who do know all these things and are trying to put it down on paper, struggles with time management, often resulting in incomplete answers. I know the dissatisfaction that comes with not being able to write a complete answer. Yeah, especially when you know the answer. So, guys, yes, please try to learn. I mean, please learn or train yourself to type faster. Nowadays, it's a CBE exam. If you're still doing a written exam, which I don't think is available at the moment, there are some places where it is. So, if you're doing a written exam, please write faster. Right now, point is, compete against time, or test yourself with time in mind. So time your answers. Even if you're doing a small question, maybe you're doing a 5-mark question just to practice one topic, well, see if you're able to complete that 5-mark question within 5 to 6 minutes. You can actually take a little longer, but always train harder when it comes to time management. Always try to finish a little earlier than necessary. Yeah. Then over reliance on rote answers without tailoring specific responses to specific scenarios. Absolutely. Another problem is, well, I hope you guys are not memorizing definitions or memorizing standards, which, well, I applaud your memory skills if you can remember all of that, but that's not how you learn. Yeah. You shouldn't be doing that for the ACCA exam, especially for most things that you learn. Please don't learn like that. It's great to have photographic memory or whatever. Test your memory, sure, but don't test your memory by just, what do you call it, memorizing definitions or memorizing stuff. Yeah, memorizing instructions, memorizing steps. Don't do that. Don't memorize stuff. Try to understand the logic behind things. This will make it easier to learn. Yeah. And it will help you avoid what do you call it, textbook answers. Yeah, copy paste answers of definitions and such. So you can tailor a response to the specific situation and make it very relevant to your exam's answer or to the exam question that is being asked. And that's exactly what is expected of you. So make sure you get the knowledge, guys. It's not just about memorizing lines or just knowing a definition. It's also about knowing how this applies or where this applies and having a version of your own to help somebody else understand this. Yeah, think of it that way. Then, moving on from there, time management issues. Insufficient time allocation for each question. So again, we come back to time management problems. Common problem, yeah, common set of issues that students have with a lot of papers, especially papers that involve a good bit of writing and a good bit of reading, because questions in the strategic level tend to be, well, quite long, as you guys know. So time management issues, if you haven't allocated time properly to your questions, you will have time management problems. Back in the days, I used to face these issues, right? I remember back in 2012 when I wrote my SBR exam. Yeah, it was the situation was I wrote the 50 marker, and then by the time I got done with the 50 marker, it was already 1 hour and 50 minutes, so 20 minutes gone. Yeah, 20 minutes from the time for the other questions. Now somehow I winged through, right? I got great marks, but the point being, yeah, if had I allocated the time better, I could have scored better, right? Same thing here, guys. This could be the biggest difference between a good mark and, well, not passing. Yeah. So insufficient time allocation for each question, especially if you're somebody who's already covered all the topics, practice with time management in mind. That's what you need to do. Then generic answers. Having a one size fit all fits all sort of answer, well, that doesn't work all the time. So failure to apply IFRS knowledge directly to scenarios, just beating around the bush here, talking about some accounting treatment, some IFRS here, some IFRS there, but not really getting down and locking in onto the question itself, that could be a problem. Yeah. So try to relate to the scenarios. Try to apply your IFRS knowledge onto the scenarios. Try to avoid generic answers. There are no generic questions. Then why are you giving generic answers? Yeah, keep that in mind. Then spreadsheet skills also can be quite important. Nowadays, yes, it's a CBE exam. It's quite relevant that all of you have spreadsheet skills, whether you write a written exam or a computer-based exam. Point is, we'll all be working on spreadsheets. Yeah, whether you like it or not. In the corporate world, it's all spreadsheets, and even otherwise. Yeah, as a teacher, also, I still work on spreadsheets all the time. It's actually nice. Yeah. Now, point is, yeah, be wary of this or know how to work with spreadsheets. It's important for your future career, of course, and not just that, for the exam that you're writing now. CBA exams have a worksheet or a spreadsheet there that you should be able to use. So difficulty adjusting consolidated financial statements within a spreadsheet format, I would say practice on Excel, or even better, get on our Learnsignal's practice platform. We have a CBE platform, or get on ACCA SBR platform. Doesn't matter. Get enough CBE experience, computer-based examination experience. That's what you need. Yeah. So get acquainted with all the keys on the keyboard, maybe. Right. Now, anyway, moving on from there. Time management, yes, very important. Important non-technical skills. Now, this is not from the report itself, right? This is important non-technical skills that you guys need to have. Now technical skills would be your knowledge, application of IFRS, the depth of IFRS knowledge, all of that. Here we're going to talk about other skills that you need, like as mentioned, time management, proper planning and structuring responses. Yeah. Application over definition. It's one thing to write the definition to have a neat start off to an answer. That's great, but that can't just be your answer. Your answer can't just be definitions. Yeah. Well, we're not writing some simple exam. We're writing a professional exam here. So you have to talk about how you apply that definition or how you apply that standard to the given scenario. Very important. Then a balanced analysis. Being able to analyze, yes, financial performance indicators and at the same time non-financial aspects or non-financial performance indicators, right? I'm not talking about performance measurement, but being able to interpret financial statements and the given scenario, very important. This is what helps you write a better answer. Yeah. So be acquainted with scenario-based questions. Very, very important. Yeah. Now, analysis of previous exams attempt. Yeah. How was it? Common issues that students faced. Difficulty explaining functional currency using IAS 21 principles. Now, this is what I was talking about. Functional currency. So foreign currency in group statements. Yeah. You have functional currency and you have presentation currency, right? So presentation currency is what currency you present your numbers in. Yeah. This would be usually the parent's currency and whatnot. Then there is functional currency. Now, functional currency, on the other hand, is the currency that you actively function in as a company, as an organization. Now, this could be the currency of the foreign country that your company or your subsidiary is based in. It could be the currency that your subsidiary deals the most with. Now, there are some factors to this mentioned under IAS 21, some conditions that you have to look at. Yeah, some criteria, right? So watch out for that. Yeah. If you can get that right, it's actually very easy. It doesn't involve any calculations as such. It's just about choosing the right currency. So easy marks, don't miss out on that. Then errors in adjusting consolidated statements using the spreadsheet format, already discussed. Get acquainted with spreadsheets, guys. There is no way around it. Yeah, we will have to work with the computers. It looks like that. Then struggles with ethical analysis. Yeah, many responses were repetitive or unrelated to the ethical dilemma. So yeah, ethical analysis. Now, first off, the 5 fundamental principles. I hope you guys know them. I'll just recap what they are: objectivity, integrity, confidentiality, professional behavior, and due diligence or due care. Professional competence. Okay, actually, it's professional competence and due care and professional behavior. Yeah. But very easy ethical principles. We are all bound by it as long as you're part of ACCA. Even as a student, yeah, you are still bound by the same set of ethics, the code of ethics. So objectivity, being uninfluenced, not unbiased, right? That's what you need. You have to be objective, not subjective. Integrity, being honest. In simple terms, don't be a liar, right? Confidentiality, being able to keep secrets unless there is a legal requirement to break the confidentiality. Yeah, because you don't want to help out a criminal. That would be abetment to crime. Yeah, so you don't want that. Sometimes you do have to break confidentiality, but those are in certain situations, so be wary of that. Then professional competence and due care. Well, whatever job you take up, you have to have the necessary skills for it. This is where they also talk about CPD, continual professional development, staying sharp, basically in a professional world. Yeah, very important. And due diligence or due care is, well, prudence in a different form. Prudence is all about exercising caution. Yeah, being conservative, you could say, right? So same idea here. Whatever you do, exercise a lot of care, exercise your own diligence. Yeah. Then professional behavior, don't do anything that discredits the ACCA fraternity. As simple as that. Yeah. Now, these ethical principles are very easy to learn, sure, but ethical analysis and understanding what is the fundamental principle that is challenged here, or what is the risk here, you have to be able to figure that out. So many responses were just simply repetitive. You don't want that. You want to like get into the crux of the answer. Yeah, and make it as relatable to the given situation. Otherwise, you won't get any marks. You may have valid answers which are not related to the situation. That wouldn't get you marks, guys. Remember that. Then, limited understanding of crowdfunding and financial statement treatment under IFRS. What is crowdfunding? I hope you guys know. It's when people around the world fund a product or a service. You effectively get to buy it at a cheaper price earlier. Yeah, there are different setups, of course. Some of them let you buy the product or the service at an early bird price. Go on kickstarter.com. You guys will know what I'm talking about. Right. So there are situations like this. Crowdfunding Go is a website that helps collecting funds from anywhere in the world for any cost. Yeah. So limited understanding of crowdfunding. Well, you don't want to be in that situation. It's actually very easy topics. Crowdfunding. What is an ICO, initial coin offering, or bitcoins or big data? Certain things that are relevant for all your strategic level exams. Please learn them. Yeah. And financial statement treatment under IFRS. Now, if you don't know that, that's a dangerous game to play. You're after all going to write SBR, strategic business reporting, right? That involves financial statements and how they're treated under IFRS. So make sure you know that. No way around it. Then challenges with identifying non-adjusting events, IAS 10 and deferred tax recognition. IAS 10, once again, guys, is a super easy standard. Events after the reporting period, two types, adjusting and non-adjusting. See, if there was any evidence of an event at the year end, and the event happened after the year end anyway, but if there was any existing evidence at the year end, then it's an adjusting event. If there was no existing evidence at the year end, it's a non-adjusting event. It's as simple as that. But non-adjusting events that are material, may require a disclosure. Keep this in mind. Yeah. But non-adjusting events like a fire, why a fire does not tell you at the year end that it's going to come. So a fire doesn't have any evidence at the year end that, oh, it was going to happen. No. Yeah. So a fire, a natural disaster, is an example of a non-adjusting event that can be material, and not just material, can also challenge your going concern. What is going concern? Going concern means that a company goes on. Yeah. So for the next 12 months at least, yeah, that's how we test going concern. We always look at the next 12 months. Is the company going to run for the next 12 months? If it is, going concern is good. If it is not, that means going concern basis cannot be used. Yeah. So watch out for events that may disrupt going concern, that may cause uncertainties regarding going concern. Such events may require you to rewrite the entire financial statements under the breakup basis. Now, you're not expected to do this in the exam, but this treatment you have to know. So, IAS 10, super easy standard, but make sure you know exactly what treatments come up. Yeah, very easy actually, right? Deferred tax, on the other hand, you have to know why deferred tax and what deferred tax is. Once you understand that, it's just logical, guys. Deferred tax recognition, should we have an asset? Deferred tax asset. Should we have a deferred tax liability? Yeah. How should we treat this? What is the subsequent measurement? It's actually all easy stuff. Remember one thing, it's about making sure that the tax effects, yeah, because of tax rules and such, are spread over, say, the life of an asset. Yeah. So it's about making sure that tax does not negatively or positively disrupt, yeah, or cause variability in our profit and loss statement. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out some questions as to why we need deferred tax. Yeah. Now, moving on from there, excuse me. Yeah. Lack of critical assessment in disclosure evaluations. That also, guys, students tend to overlook disclosures. Yes, it's very easy to learn disclosures. May require little bit of memorizing, going against the rule I was talking about. Don't memorize things. Yeah. But yes, with disclosures, you may have to memorize a little bit here and there, right? Have some kind of a mental map of what disclosures are required depending on what item you're talking about. So many responses simply copy details that wouldn't do. You have to, well, evaluate the disclosures given. You have to talk about why these disclosures are adequate or why they are inadequate. Yeah. And also talk about maybe the ethical aspects of the lack of certain disclosures. Yeah. So think of it on those lines, right? Make sure you go through that. Then insufficient explanation of how judgments and estimates support investor decision making. That also. Yeah. How do the judgments, how do these estimates, yeah, help investor decision making? At the end of the day, the reporting or what we do, financial statements, they're all for investors to make decisions upon. Yeah, whether it's potential investors or investors who are already shareholders with us. If there is very little explanation or insufficient explanation on how these judgments or how these estimates help investors, then you're not seeing through with what you need to do in SBR. And that is definitely a problem. Yeah. That IFRS 9 financial instruments, IFRS 15, IAS 36. Out of these, I think IFRS 9 would be a little bit of a challenge, if at all. Yeah. IFRS 15 and IAS 36, you can probably learn in 15 minutes after this class, right? So these two standards, they frequently appear, and I mean, these three standards, they frequently appear and should be well understood. I can add more standards to that, but make sure that you guys at least know these. I mean, not at least, you guys make sure you know all the standards, but make sure you know these three standards inside out. Yeah, that means very well, right? Should be well understood. Then communication, critical thinking, skepticism, and ethical analysis, essential for high marks, goes without saying. Being able to write a well planned or a well thought out structured response, being able to communicate correctly. Yeah. Critical thinking, yes. Thinking about, what needs to be applied here, what needs to be, yeah, what is the problem here, thinking beyond just the lines in the question, beyond the boundaries, you could say. Yeah, very vague way of saying it, but I hope you guys get the idea. Thinking out of the box, to an extent, sure. Yeah, so critical thinking is very important. Being able to analyze a situation, evaluate a situation, yeah, criticize a situation, right? Skepticism, effectively a questioning mind. Don't take anything on face value. Always have questions. Works out well or is a mandatory requirement in the audit exam. Here, you still have to be skeptical. Why? Well, there will be treatments that directors would have done, or they would talk about scenarios where directors don't want to report a certain number. So you have to criticize that, or you have to, exercise your professional skepticism and judgment to say that, hey, this is not how it should be done. There are problems with that set treatment. Similarly, ethical analysis also. Be ready to do ethical analysis on given scenarios. Yeah, very essential. If you can crack those things, yes, you will get good marks guaranteed, because these are actually quite often tested as part of the SBR exam. Yeah. Now, moving on from there, key recommendations, scenario specific responses. Please make sure you always have the scenario in mind whenever you're writing a response. Avoid generic answers, tailor responses to the case provided. Yep, absolutely. See, if you know an answer, why don't you tailor it to the given situation? That will get you all the marks that you want. Yeah. Then, when you're learning, focus on high yield areas. Yeah. Prioritize areas like consolidation, ethics, and IFRS applications that frequently appear in the exam. As mentioned earlier, IA 16, IFRS 16. Yeah, IA 16 is a basic standard you definitely need to know, right? IFRS 16 is leases. IFRS 15 is revenue. Important standards, all the same. IAS 36, IAS 37, IAS 38. A lot of standards, yes, but some of these standards are often questioned and very important. Yeah, make sure you know them, right? Then, regular practice. So use the ACCA practice platform for past questions and review model answers to enhance the structure and depth. Yes, 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 yes. There is no way around practice, guys. If it were not a professional exam, or if it was just a college exam, I would have said, hey, please go wing the answer. Some of you, or at least a lot of you, can do that, not an issue. But in a professional exam, you can't simply wing the answer. It won't work, right? You have to be exceptional to do that. Quite hard. Yeah. But I would still suggest, even if you're exceptional at how you study and how you reproduce your answers or how you write your answers, I would still suggest that you go through some practice. I've seen students score 100 marks, so it's not impossible to get 100 marks. Yeah. So you can, right? With regular practice, of course. Yeah. So use the ACCA practice platform for past questions and review model answers to make sure you have proper structure and depth in your answers, right? And yeah, on that note, I think that's pretty much every point that we should have talked about, right? What can I add on from personal experience? Well, guys, always remember there is no point in panicking. Yeah, the time is anyway going to run, right? So no point running behind it. You have a few days, put your mind to it. If you haven't even started studying, you still have time. Make sure you spend that time wisely. That's what you need to do, right? Especially for any last minute learners. Yeah. Now, on the other hand, for people who have been practicing for a while, now is the time to make sure that there are no gaps in your knowledge. Yeah. Try to understand the structure of the paper itself, how the paper is, what topics come up. There is generally a relationship between topics. Yeah. This happens in any paper. Same advice I would have for any paper, right? Point is, there is a structure for all these papers. There is a structure in the syllabus that you have to follow. Yeah. Find that structure, understand what parts of the structure you don't know and you do know. Whatever you don't know, see what can fill that gap in your knowledge. See the application gap also. It's not just about the knowledge gap. Knowledge gap is one thing, not knowing certain things. Yeah, absolutely. Figure that out. Application gap is knowing things but not being able to apply it, or not knowing how to apply things. That would be more serious for SBR, as you guys can imagine. Yeah. So you make sure you work that out too, right? Other than that, from my personal experiences or from what I've seen with students, I would recommend practice, at least for the sake of time management. Now, you may be lazy or you don't have time. Yeah, I can understand. Yes, professional lives and family lives and whatnot, or just general life getting in the way. Yeah. So, in situations like that, or at least for the next 5 days, if you can keep everything on a hold and focus on studies, well and good. If you can't, even if you can't, whatever time you have, try to time the answers that you do. This is to make sure that you have some sense of, yeah, a clock running out, especially when you write an answer. Yeah. Try to type out your answers, try to do it on an Excel sheet or a spreadsheet, Google Docs, or if not Google Docs or Excel, actually go to the ACCA platform itself. That would be better. Yeah. If not either of those, any spreadsheet, sure, right. uh, Make sure you have some experience on a spreadsheet. Make sure you know how formulas work. Back in the days, we had to calculate the IRR manually. Today, you can use the formula from the spreadsheet. Back in the days, we had to calculate MIRR manually. Today, you can use the formulas once again. Yeah. Back in the days, we had to calculate NPV, right? I mean, just the part where you had to show the net cash flows and then put the discount factor and discount cash flow. You don't have to do any of that here. Now, of course, for SBR exam, this may not be too relevant. IRR, MIRR, NPV, all of this come from AFM, FM, and all of that. Some formulas, yeah, or some simple things you can still use for your SBR exam. A sum formula for sure, a ratio formula. Yeah, all of this you can use. So make sure you're acquainted with them. Don't let the exam be the first time that you see a spreadsheet or work on a computer based exam. Yeah. So make sure you time yourself, make sure you have a look through those things. Other than that, what else would I add? I think that's pretty much it, right? Make sure you understand the structure of the exam, figure out your gaps in the knowledge and the application. Yeah. Fill those gaps, right? And write at least one mock, if possible, two mocks recommended. If not possible, at least one mock. Why? So that you have some practice. Again, writing a full exam, yeah, in a timed approach, yeah, where you can see the model answer and compare your answer, right? So on that note, guys, yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to share. You guys can, yeah, post your questions here. I don't see any questions. Yeah. So feel free. I'll be here for a couple more minutes, of course, to answer your questions. So you can, yeah, whatever question you have, if it is a particular topic you want me to talk about, well, I don't think we have a time to talk about a full topic, but I can still discuss some details or some things that you should look out for in certain topics, if there are any such things that come to your mind. Any other doubts or any technical doubts, any non-technical doubts, whatever you guys may have, please feel free. Now, in the meanwhile, guys, you can check out the QR code for the contents on Learnsignal. You can check out our platform and what we have there. Quite a lot of stuff that you can actually make use of, even in the last minute. So do check it out, right? Uh, I'll give it a couple of minutes and then we can wrap up, right? So again, in the meanwhile, if you guys have questions, now is the time, please. Any tips for identifying the correct standard to apply? Oh, Ellie, good question. Okay. Any tips for identifying the correct standard? Okay. Depends on the question entirely, of course. So, things you can watch out for. This is where you see, this is what I said. Even if you don't know the standard numbers, that's fine. Yeah. You got to know what standard applies to what. In the sense, property, plant, and equipment talks about property, plant, and equipment, their initial recognition, yeah, their subsequent measurement. Initial recognition is usually based on cost plus transaction cost, yeah, generally, right? Then subsequent measurement can be based on the cost model or the revaluation model. Now, knowing so much about the standard helps me when I read a question, yeah, and I see assets in that question. I'm already thinking, okay, maybe property, plant, and equipment, maybe, yeah. The rest of it depends on, well, how the question is structured and what they're asking for. Now, just because there are non-current assets doesn't mean that it's automatically IAS 16 or property, plant, and equipment. There may be other standards that may need to be applied, like IAS 40, investment property. So, reading the question through, trying to figure out some keywords. Are they asking about initial recognition? Are they asking about subsequent measurement? Are they asking about derecognition? Or maybe they're not even asking about any of this. They're asking about presentation. So, knowing this, knowing what area or what element you're dealing with, yeah, assets, liabilities, right? Are we talking about financial instruments? Knowing that will definitely help you choose the right standard. Yeah, that's what I would say, Ellie. I hope that helps, right? Any tips with approach on groups and pre-populated spreadsheet? I always struggle for time and what is being asked of me when under timed pressure. Upe, yeah, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, right? So, what you got to watch out for with groups, yeah, is well having an idea of the workings. Yeah, the workings back in the days when I was a student, I didn't have a great idea about groups. I saw this for the first time in FR. Yeah, so at that time, I came from a science background, right, into commerce. Yeah, because my dad is a chartered accountant for some background, right? Now, anyway, when I got into this, so it was a confusing world for me. Yeah, initially at least. This was what, 10, 12 years back. Yeah. So that time, what I did was effectively learn the workings and then try to understand the logical flow in these workings. Why are the workings so? Now, in the long run, after teaching a lot of students and after effectively acing the method, I think the workings matter a lot. Yeah, the way you have an idea. Now it can be your own workings, doesn't have to be the usual workings that you see in different texts and yeah, portals and all of that. The point is you have to know how to treat a subsidiary, fair value of the net assets, figure out what you're paying, and then how much extra am I paying. That's goodwill, but are we using the full goodwill method? Are we using the partial goodwill method? Yeah. And if you're using either of these methods, how would NCI be valued? What is the share of the profit? Certain basic questions should come to your mind when you're thinking consolidation. Once you do that, the pre-populated spreadsheet would become easier for you. Why? Because you already know what you need to look out for. I know that, okay, I need fair value of net assets to value the subsidiary, to figure out what is the fair value of net assets in the subsidiary at the rate of acquisition. So I know what I'm looking out for. That helps a lot. Yeah. This is the main way to go through a pre-populated spreadsheet, because when you go through the spreadsheet, you'll see multiple numbers, you'll see multiple different things. If you don't know what you're looking out for, it's like a maze. You'll keep going around in circles, and like what you just told me, you'll be struggling for time. Time is just gonna tick away. Yeah. So you want to avoid that? Well, best thing to do, practice harder group questions. Try them on a spreadsheet only. Try creating your own pre-populated yes spreadsheet if that works, right? But yes, I would suggest trying out every possible group question out there and different situations, different variations of this. Why? So that you have an idea of how the workings go, so that you have an idea of the logical flow of the workings. Once you crack those workings, group statements are actually quite easy. Yeah. Keep this in mind. Bhupi, I hope I helped. Most welcome. Most welcome. Yeah. Yes. Anybody else? Please feel free, guys. Yeah. I'm still here, so I'm open to questions. So yeah, please, coming back to this, right? You can check out the QR code right over here. You can scan it and go check out our website. Other than that, yeah, my name is Arvind Suryadev. Once again, I am from India. If you haven't figured that out already, right? I did ACCA back in 2010. Yeah, that's when I started, and I finished in 2013. So end of 2010, I started. Yeah, 2013, I finished. It was a 6 month examination thing at that time, like a semester. Yeah, we didn't have the 3 month thing. Yeah, it was a written exam, right? And I've been teaching from 2012. So even before I finished ACCA, I actually started teaching. I started with CIMA. Yeah, I also have CIMA, right? The advanced diploma, not the entire thing. Other than that, I've been teaching for the past 13 years now. So 13 and a half almost. Yeah, I've been enjoying that time. I truly love to teach, right? It's something I've always, yeah, enjoyed, right? And I've also worked corporate, HP, the computer company. I did a stint for 4 years over there. Figure teaching is my calling, so here I am. Yeah. So I hope the session helped. Yeah. And whatever pointers I had and whatever you guys saw here, right? I hope that helps you to achieve the mark that you're looking out for. So even if you're looking out for a pass rate, yeah, like 50 and just above, or even if you're looking for something, yes, at the highest level, 90 plus, 80 plus, yeah, whatever you're looking out for, I hope you find that, yeah, and I hope you get to that, right? So I hope your objectives will be achieved. Yeah. Now, if you guys don't have any questions, I think we can safely wrap up. Yeah. So best of luck, guys. Yeah, your exam is in a few days. Let the exam fever catch you, but don't go under it. Yeah. Do your best. Remember, it's just an exam at the end of the day. So ace it or try to ace it. Just give it your best shot. That's the best thing you can do. Yeah. So, Lucia, yeah, most welcome. I see your message here. So, thank you, guys. I'm absolutely overwhelmed. Thank you if you guys found this helpful. Right. So, until next time, yeah, see you guys again. Hopefully, not for the same paper, or definitely not for the same paper. So, please, best of luck. Break a leg. Yeah. Thank you, and bye bye. Have a nice rest of the day. Yeah, whatever time zone you guys are in. Bye bye.